Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about bacteria, some of the content-specific knowledge that you're going to need to know in order to choose your 3 specific bacteria that you would put into your doomsday seed bank. So we're going to start off just with some characteristics of bacteria. So make sure you have your notes out and you're ready to fill some of this in. So bacteria are almost everywhere. They're in the air and the foods that you eat, and even in the surfaces that you touch. That's why we wash our hands and we use hand sanitizer so that we are not putting bacteria from our hands into our eyes and our mouth and getting bad bacteria into our body. So you should know that there's bacteria that is considered bad, and there's bacteria that's also considered good. So there are reasons to keep bacteria in our world. So where do bacteria live? Some live in very extreme environments where few organisms can even survive. Others live in cold water or soil. Others live in hot springs or other warm environments. They pretty much live in any type of environment. There are 3 basic shapes of bacteria. So when you're looking at pictures, you'll see that they're either spheres, rods, or spiral shaped. You should also know that all bacteria are made up of prokaryotic cells, meaning they don't have a nuclear or a membrane-bound nucleus or membrane-bound organelles. They just have a cell wall, plasma membrane, cytoplasm, ribosomes, and they have chromosomes as well. That's these coil-looking things. Some of them have flagella, which allows them to move to certain places, but not all of them have that. The only way the bacteria can reproduce is through an asexual reproduction called fission. And this is the process that produces 2 new cells with genetic material identical to each other and that of the original cell. So remember when we were talking about mitosis? This is kind of an example of that. The cell divides to form 2 identical cells. So it doesn't need 2 organisms. It's just one organism dividing from 1 into 2. So think about how that might be helpful when storing certain bacteria in your seed bank. It's kind of nice because it doesn't involve 2 organisms. They can just reproduce on their own. How do bacteria obtain food? Some are producers, which means that they can make their own food. And some are consumers, which means that they have to get their food from other organisms. But we find that most bacteria are consumers. So they have to get their food from other organisms. So when thinking about what bacteria you might want to put in your doomsday bank, you might want to think about producers, because if bacteria are producers, then all they need is sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water in order to make food. They don't have to get it from somewhere else, so they can kind of be a little more self-sustaining. There are 2 different kingdoms that we classify bacteria into. One of them is called eubacteria, and this is the larger kingdom. Most bacteria are fit in this kingdom, and they are characterized into this kingdom by their cell shape and structure, the way they get their food, the type of food they consume, and the waste that they produce. So that's how they are characterized into this kingdom. One type of producer eubacteria is cyanobacteria, and this is an important food source for some organisms in lakes and oceans, but sometimes when there's so much of this type of bacteria, it can cause problems for aquatic life. So as long as it's under control, it could be a really good thing for organisms. You just have to watch out to make sure it doesn't get out of control. Archaebacteria is the second kingdom, and it's the smaller kingdom of the bacteria kingdoms. And this kingdom contains bacteria found in really extreme conditions like hot springs. And they are divided into groups based on where they live and how they get their energy. That's how they're classified into this group. There's a group that lives in really salty conditions in the Dead Sea. Some of these bacteria live in acidic or hot environments. And some of these are called methane producers. They live in muddy swamps, the intestines of cattle, and even in you. And these methane producers are used in the process of sewage treatment, so kind of getting rid of our waste products. So it might be important to look up a type of bacteria that's a methane producer, because that's important when we're getting rid of our wastes. Last thing, tomorrow when you come in, you will research a little more specific bacteria, and you will choose 3 bacteria that you would put into your doomsday bank and why. And tomorrow you will also research protists with a partner, and you'll choose 3 protists that you would put in your doomsday bank as well. And that's it for today, and I will see you tomorrow.